Hey everyone, welcome back to HD Reddit Reads. Today's topic is going to be people who have had friends stab you in the back. What is the story? Let's get into it. Made plans to go see a movie with my friends for my 16th birthday and planned it for weeks in advance. Everybody bailed the day before/of, but I decided to go to see that movie. Ran into the whole group of friends leaving the movie theater while buying popcorn. That's brutal. Did you confront them? Yeah, a lot of hemming and hawing with no real explanation and no apology. Still went to see my movie, Underworld, and learned a valuable lesson about people and friends. Sucked at the time, but eventually that lesson was a great B-Day gift. Best friend stopped talking to me after my dad died. Took the whole friend group with him. Apparently I was too emotional. I was 13, having my entire friend group walk away from me when I was in such a shitty place stuck with me forever. This was similar to my experience as well. I lost my father at 9 years old, and all but one of my friends ditched me because they didn't know how to deal with a person in grief. I'm still close with the friend that stayed 21 years later. Hope everything is going well now. Edit. I never thought this would get so many views. For people's information, I'm doing a lot better. In middle school, I met this extrovert who introduced me to most of the good friends I have now in life. And at the age of 30, I've come to terms with both my father's death and the unfortunate events of my youth. Asked two friends of mine if they wanted to live together in college. Then one of them asked another person in our friend group if they wanted to join him as well. Then they asked another, and then once there were too many people for one apartment, they dropped me out of it, no longer friends with any of them. It was kind of a wake-up call though, because I definitely gave way too much of myself to those people, not knowing that I was the most expendable one. It really taught me not to put others on a pedestal and respect myself more, and has since led to me developing far more healthy relationships that bring me a lot of happiness. Several of my housemates decided to move to the West Coast after college. There was one who was planning on going with them that they didn't want to keep living with. They waited to tell her until after they had driven out over spring break and look at apartments in her car. Pretty gross, and it really messed with her. Glad you're doing better. Edit to clarify. They told her after they got back. I had one friend. I was bullied by everyone at elementary school. Because my friend would be bullied too when they hang out with me at school, we only played outside of school. One day, a popular kid asked to play with me during recess. I was ecstatic. Until after a while, they said, "You're not as bad as friend said you are." And that's how I learned why I was bullied. My mother told me she was sick of being with Dad. She told me a bunch of things he'd done that made her afraid of him. She asked me to tell a few of her close friends about how she was being treated, because she wanted them to understand why she was leaving. Then, she decided to stay with him. So she told her friends that she had no idea what was wrong with me, but they should pray for me because I looked like I was going through something. My own mother stabbed me in the back. Been very good friends for over 2 years. Their roommate moved out and they asked if I wanted to move into the spare room. I was very happy to live with my good friends, and I did everything I could to be the best roommate possible. After 3 weeks, they found another source of income and kicked me out. First, they offered to help me find another accommodation, but the next day they changed their mind and just told me to leave by the end of the month. It was 7 days until the end of the month. They haven't spoke to me ever since. When we did meet somewhere in town, they acted like they'd never seen me before. I have no effing idea what I did wrong. A quiet girl I made friends with would only sit with me in class just so she could snitch about me to my ex-friends. She would literally sit next to me for 1 or 2 of my classes randomly, then go sit with them later. I called her out on it after she came to sit with me and told her, "Why do you even bother sitting with me, when we both know you're just trying to get shit to talk about with them? When I come back from the bathroom, you better go sit somewhere else." I was usually very quiet, and that was the first time I stood up for myself. I had one friend who honestly was my favorite person because she was really manipulative, but I never said anything bad about her. I found out that she had been shit-talking me to all of our mutual friends and telling them that I did horrible things to her that I never did. I ended up essentially being pushed out of the entire friend group, and it ruined a lot of my high school experience. I had a best friend that I knew for 16 years. She got pregnant and her parents tried to kick her out. Her parents wanted her to get an abortion, but she refused. One of our HS friends told me that someone pushed her down a flight of stairs so she could miscarry. I told her that's a very bad idea and defended my best friend. The next day, the principal came by my class to ask me if I could attend a meeting about something important. If I didn't attend, I was going to be expelled. When I arrived to the meeting, Our shared friend claimed I was going to shove my best friend down a flight of stairs so she could miscarry. My best friend believed her. We stopped talking after that. We, my husband and I, had a friend that we helped get back on his feet. Paid off some tickets he had, got his license reinstated, hooked him up with a solid connection for a reasonable, well-running car to replace his beater, and gave him a place to live and a job, automotive repair. He decided it was a better choice to tell all of our customers we were overcharging them. Spoiler, we weren't. And he'd do the jobs cheaper if they'd bring it to him at his house. This was a short time after he moved out of the house after never repaying anything he owed us. Not that we'd ask. Broke my heart. Some will just take as much as they possibly can. He did. Now he stops by occasionally like nothing ever happened. It's been years now, but some shit just doesn't heal right. My wife said she needed some time for herself, so she went to stay at her mom's for a while. One day, I went to pick up my kids and walked in on her and my best friend having sex. Turns out, it had been going on for a while and she knew him before she knew me, which I had no clue about. Edit. This kind of blew up and I can't really reply to every comment/question, so I just wanted to add a few things. 1. When I said the affair had been going on for a while, I mean for several months before I found out. This was after my second son was born. I have no doubts as to whether my kids are actually mine or not. 2. Yes, they are now my ex-wife and ex-best friend. 3. This happened nearly 16 years ago now. It was a very dark period in my life, but I am great now. I got 2 great kids out of the relationship. I wouldn't have met my wife if this hadn't happened. Also, I believe I'm a stronger person having gone through the whole ordeal. 4. Just know that if you're going through something horrible in life and your heart and mind are broken, there is hope for things to get better. It just takes time. Years ago, when I did a health sciences undergraduate degree, most of the cohort was determined to get into medical school. Our medical school program mainly accepted students from only our competitive undergraduate course, due to subject prerequisites. Many of my friends were great. We shared tips, resources, practice exams, and interviews together. But there were a handful who really wanted to get into medical school. And since the program ranks applicants mainly based on undergraduate results, the better your friends perform, the lower your ranking is for selection. So near application time, some of us would head off to the university library to borrow out textbooks to find each chapters or page numbers that the lecturer mentioned would be on the exam, and they would be ripped out. You go and find another library copy of textbooks, and that page would be ripped out too. All of them, totally removed in a hurry. I didn't believe someone from our cohort did it until interview practice began. Students began obtaining copies of the questions from previous years and lying when others asked if they had it. I saw someone give a terrible, awful interview answer, and the other student would give them glowing feedback and inform them they should say that word for word during the interview. It was a shit show, and a lot of the relationships fell apart or never were the same again. A guy who seemed like a good mate when it was just us, and then as soon as there was someone else or a group, he took the piss out of me and tried to make me the butt of all jokes. Even worse if there was girls around. After a while, I called him out on it, and he was just like, dude, it's just a joke. But I was done with him after that. I saw him randomly earlier this year, after years of no contact, and it was amicable. And we caught up a bit on how we're getting on with our lives. And while he has grown up and become a bit more grounded, there's been no intention of rebuilding a bridge. I think if I ever met someone who has that side to their personality, I'd drop them like a hot potato. Grew up going to the same church and met my friend and her family when I was 14. We grew up together, hung out, and our families would be together all the time. Fast forward many years and I am dating a guy that I fell in love with for almost 3 years at the time. He went to ND to the oil fields for work. I went to visit him and could tell something was off a bit. Took the train from my town to Williston, 22 hours to get there. Visited him for 5 days, and on the last day he gets up and goes to the shower. I grab his phone. We had an open policy with each other that either of us could be on each other's phones. I found the emails between my friend and him. My family still hangs out with her family and her. I refuse to be around or speak to her. My best friend since 4th grade. I called her my soul sister. I was genuinely so grateful to have what I thought our friendship was. She fell on hard times, got weirdly religious, and stopped working while I was in a private uni. I was always there for her, shoulder to cry on, visited her all the time. She didn't have any friends and I knew that she was lonely. Helped her with groceries and rent, helped her family out. One day she came over after buying her groceries. She told me a higher power has been telling her to cut me off for 2 years and she had to listen. Now she wants to be friends again. It's a hard note from me, dog. I had some friends who were always talking crap about me. And one day I came to school in my brand new jeans that cost me around 150 euros, and they put glue on my chair while I was in the bathroom. I sat on it. I asked which one of them did it. None of them said a word. We went to the principal's office, and these POSs had the balls to say I put it there to get them in trouble. Their parents were called, and I earned around 200 euros and a new pair of jeans. Thank you for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing. It'll be greatly appreciated. And if you want to visit the original threads, I'll link them in the description. And that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one.